Hey, it's JP from the Junkies. Football season is finally back, and BetQL is ready to help you win more consistently this year. BetQL is an absolute game changer if you're looking to find trends to help you win. Make smarter bets on spreads, totals, player props, and more. BetQL has already helped over 300,000 people with powerful analytics and community insights. Don't fumble away your cash this football season. Visit BetQL.com for their free daily analysis today. That's BetQL.com.
Radio you can touch.
That can only mean one thing.
This is the Bob and Jeff Show.
You seem to know all the players in this poorly acted farce. What do they call that one?
Bob Lutz.
I've known you your entire life. There's no one who knows less about football.
Jeff Lutz.
I think every bowl game from now on should be named after something you can put in a bowl, like raisins. The Orange Bowl's fine. Sugar Bowl's okay. But no Tax Slayer Bowl. You can't put that in a bowl. You can envision a bowl of raisins.
Call yourself a man. I weep for you.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Welcome to Thursday edition of the Bob and Jeff Show. Picks are back. We're all excited about that.
That's the first thing you
Coming
start.
up in hour number 2. Of course it is.
You know those picks are brought to you by FanDuel.
Well, FanDuel, fine. I just like making them.
You can get your
I like the
no
interaction with
no
Duda,
sweat bets.
with Max. It's good stuff.
You can use the promo code LUTZ when you sign up
For what? For picks?
to get free bets, to get no sweat bets, to get money back. I mean, there's so many things. You can play the spreads. You can do it all. What do you have?
How does it feel to be a shill?
Love being a shill.
Do you really?
Tell me to shill something right now, I'll shill it.
You'd do anything for $1.
Absolutely.
That's a horrible thing. 869-1240, that is the hotline, sponsored by IHOP, where I happen to get free pancakes. Actually, I don't.
That'd be nice,
Why don't
though.
I? That becomes the question.
Because you're just a normal person, man.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm fine with being a normal person. What else is on tap, you ask? Jon Kirby from Jayhawk Slant will join us at 2:25 as we wind up our Big 12 football previews today and tomorrow. Jon Kirby, of course, will break down the KU Jayhawks. They open on Friday night against Missouri State.
Yes.
At 2:45, Dusty Trail, the head football coach at Bishop Carroll. They are expected to bounce back in a big way. They had a good year last year, but they're expected to be right there among the contenders again in Class 5A. We'll talk about Bishop Carroll football with Dusty Trail. And then, of course, the picks coming up at 3:25 today. We'll be joined by our producer, Max Power, and our sometimes co-host, Jason Duda. So you've had a really interesting last couple of hours.
It's been fun.
Which baseball has to fix this.
Fix what?
This waiver thing. It makes no sense.
How is it broken?
Well, it makes no sense. How come the Guardians and Reds can just claim everybody because they have the first chance, and the
They don't have the
Giants,
first
Marlins,
chance.
everybody else is just left out of it? Well, they're the first of the quote-unquote contending teams. And I use that term very loosely for the Cleveland
Not
Guardians.
anymore, baby.
You really think these three clowns, who were terrible in Anaheim, terrible?
No, they weren't.
Lucas Giolito was 1-5 with an ERA above 6.
Yeah, he was not very good. Ronaldo Lopez,
he was okay,
and Matt Moore was
was
fine.
pretty good. Matt Moore's a good pitcher. But you really you now ask somebody on Twitter, one of the Cleveland Guardians beat writers who's looking for questions. Your question was, what size ring does Ronaldo Lopez wear?
Yeah, that's correct.
You're just setting yourself up for massive.
I told you this 3 days ago.
Massive disappointment.
But why not enjoy it while it's here? We got a big series coming up against Tampa, then a huge
In
series.
Tampa?
No, in Cleveland. Then a huge series coming up with Minnesota after that.
In Minnesota.
No, in Cleveland. These are all home games.
So you're going to try to get to one of those. What if they get swept by Tampa?
Then it's not going to look
8
good.
out, and these three clowns are over there in the dugout going, what the hell are we doing here?
Oh, that could happen, but it also might not happen. You try to.
Well, I guess you give
take
it your best
chances.
shot. I guess.
I think Minnesota has Texas. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, they play at
But
Texas.
it just doesn't make sense. Here's Minnesota. which has had a better year than Cleveland.
Right.
And they're sitting up there. They don't get a chance at any of these people. Meanwhile, the team chasing them just claims them, all of them.
Yep.
They're,
We get all
you
of them.
can't, now try to separate yourself from your fandom for a minute, please, because I would feel this way if it was the Cardinals. Honestly,
Well,
it makes me kind of mad. What is this? What is the system? What's the motivation behind it? So these contending teams, or these teams that thought they'd be contenders and they've fallen out of the race, put players on waivers to save a few bucks.
Right.
And then in order of your worst record. So the Cardinals could have had any of these guys because they have a terrible record, but they know they're not going anywhere.
But it starts in your own league. So
you get up to the point where these teams on the fringe of contending are in a better position to claim additional help than the teams that are a little better than them.
Right. That's called balance, and that's called.
But this isn't any time for balance. You don't try to fix balance 5 months into the year.
Sure you do.
No, Jeff, you're going to make me angry here because you know, as a baseball fan, this isn't right.
So now the Reds and the Guardians have more hope. That's two teams. Nobody has less hope because of this.
This is not right. If I'm the Minnesota Twins or the Miami Marlins or the San Francisco Giants, I'm looking at this system and I'm saying, wait a minute, we got to get to the offseason. We got to fix this. This is not right. And I'm not saying that to begrudge Cleveland. They're within the rules, but you're unwilling to look at things without the prism of how it helps your team. And that angers me.
You know what? If I'm Minnesota and I'm 5 up, and I'm saying bring it. And if I'm Cleveland and I'm 5 up, and Minnesota got those three guys, I'd say good luck to you.
No,
We're
you're
5
not.
up.
If this had happened the reverse way, the Twins had got these three, and they're chasing the Guardians, you'd be livid today.
I wouldn't be livid.
You know it.
I'd be 5 up.
You know it. You'd be livid.
I don't think so.
Let's say you were 2 up. Okay? Because the Reds, who got Harrison Bader and Hunter Renfroe today, are in a dogfight for a wild card with several teams in the National League, including the aforementioned Marlins and Giants.
Aren't the Marlins worse than them? Or am I wrong about that?
I'm not sure. The Marlins lost a game last night, so they might be.
Yeah, the Marlins are worse. They're under 500. The Reds are 3 over. So they could have claimed either one of those guys.
I just think it's a misguided system.
What about the Padres?
The Padres are done.
They're out of it, but
they've checked it in.
But yeah,
as the Guardians should have.
Well, we didn't. We have to block Minnesota too. That's part of the strategy. We can't just let them run away with it because they were essentially next in line.
Had you lost the game yesterday, you would not have claimed any of these players. You'd be 7 out. You'd be tail between your legs. You'd be going home.
Okay, well, if we'd won the first game, we'd be 3 out. And we certainly would have claimed them. And
I don't like it. I'm just going to say it. And you'll hear more about this.
When?
Watch these national writers. Watch some of these teams start to say, wait a minute, what's going on here?
I don't think so.
The Cincinnati Reds got a lot better today. I mean, significantly better. I'll hold judgment on Cleveland. But the Reds with Harrison Bader and Hunter Renfroe, they've now solidified their lineup. Not that Harrison Bader is a great offensive player, but he is a great defensive player. They've now solidified their lineup to the point where, look out.
Yeah, making a successful waiver claim doesn't impact a club's claiming priority, so one club could theoretically claim every available player. That's good job, Cleveland.
That's ridiculous.
Beautiful spot to be in.
That's a ridiculous thing.
We may have lost some games on purpose just so we'd be able to do that.
You know what? That's what you're going to have to
No one
about.
thinks that.
Well, certainly the appearance doesn't look good. And now we're going to tank to get waiver wire claims.
But who's going to who's in any other year this doesn't happen because the Angels or a team like them probably aren't going to do that. A team under 500 isn't going to be usually within striking distance.
Well, we'll see
of a playoff division.
We'll see, but if it does happen again, you know what? It can't happen again. This is a bad thing for baseball. I'm going to say it. I believe that.
I don't.
I know you don't because you
How is
benefited
it bad
from
for baseball?
A team like Cleveland shouldn't just be able to reload its roster on September 1. This shouldn't happen.
Well, of course they should. Every other year until last year, the trade deadline was on August 31st.
And at that time you had to give up something to get players like this at the waiver deadline.
Well, Guardians have gotten.
Now you just pay a few bucks and you got 3 guys in there.
We've gotten 6.
It's a terrible system.
I love it.
I've never been a bigger Twins fan.
That's you.
We're the Double-A franchise here in Wichita. Wichita, let's all rally around the Minnesota Twins. When you show up at Riverfront Stadium tonight to cheer on the Wichita Wind Surge, take in your Twins flag.
Nobody has any.
Point toward the press box where Jeff Lutz is going to be.
I'm going to be at our dumb draft.
Oh, you're not going to be at the press box? Our dumb draft.
Yeah.
You're too good for our dumb draft.
I'll be there.
Now?
But
why do you call it a dumb draft?
You're because of this little charade and spiel you're on.
Really?
Yeah. And we're going to absolutely dominate this league again.
You never have.
Scotty and me.
So take your Twins stuff, your hats, your blankets, whatever. I know it's 100 degrees, but boast of them. Make yourselves proud, Twins fans.
Losers. You didn't win any claims.
I can't wait for the Twins to win this division.
Good. I can't wait to watch Lucas Giolito pitch in a
Good.
Guardians.
He had a 6.49 ERA.
He wasn't motivated. He's going over to a real team with real
pitching. This team's worse than the Angels were when they acquired him.
They have the same record now.
No, I mean when the Angels acquired him, they were above 500.
I understand. I'm saying
Guardians
now
they're acquiring him when they're what 6 below 500.
That's what I'm saying. They have the same record right now.
I'm just mad about it. Let me be mad. And I'm sorry that you're involved. That's not the reason I'm mad. I just don't like it. I don't like it.
Okay, well, let's see here. The waivers would have gone A's, Royals, not Rangers, but Tigers. I don't know. White Sox. They're not going to pick them up. The Guardians had the 5th best spot.
Right. So they should be able to say, okay, we'll take this guy. And then the next team should say, okay, we'll take this guy. And then if it goes back around and nobody claims any of these other people, then we start over. But teams shouldn't be able to claim 3 guys in one fell swoop.
I don't know. That's
and I can tell by
that's a collectively bargained.
I can tell by the way your face looks that you agree with me.
I don't agree with you. It's a collectively bargained part of the game.
I know you agree with me. And if you'd just be the bigger man, it would require you to be a big man right now. Do you agree with me or not?
Is Giolito starting tomorrow or?
No. Do you agree with me or not?
I wonder who we're going to DFA.
See, folks, this is Jeff passively agreeing
I
with
don't agree.
Say it. Say it for the world.
I just did.
Say, I think this system is exactly the right system.
I think this system is flawless.
Unbelievable.
Set up to improve teams that want to improve.
No, not teams. A team.
2. We got 2 improved today.
Right. 2 teams who had the first opportunity as losers because they're not.
Why didn't Minnesota get Harrison Bader?
Why would they?
Or Hunter Renfroe? Well, I mean, they could have gotten either of those 2 guys, right? Isn't it the league first, or does it not do that anymore? I thought it went from.
You don't even know. You don't even know the rule.
I know the rule. It used to be the league that the players are in got but it might not be that way anymore.
I've never been more upset.
But then again, I don't know.
Anyway, we are looking at 8 college games today. I actually had to really do some research today. It was difficult to find 8, but we got 8, and a couple of those are right here in our state. Missouri State's not going to be nearly as good as they were last year, and they come to Lawrence to play the Jayhawks. Meanwhile, Southeast Missouri State is ranked in the top 10 in the FBC early rankings, and they're in Manhattan on Saturday to play K-State.
FCS.
Whatever it is.
Whatever they call it.
And that surprised me. So Southeast Missouri State.
Did you make both of those lines?
I did.
Oof. We'll see. I don't know.
We'll see.
I don't know how to pick either.
We'll see what people pick. If you don't know how to pick, then I must have done a pretty good job.
Well, you could be 8.5, and I still wouldn't know. How to pick.
I must have done a good job.
Not necessarily.
I did a better job than Major League Baseball did.
You could have put it at 41.5, and I'd be like, is KU that much better?
Well, I'd hope you do a little research then. But you don't care. All you care about is these three musketeers who are going to march into Progressive Field and just light it on fire.
Help us win a series.
And I don't mean that in the light it on fire positive way.
Why?
They might as well burn down that stadium after these three show up.
What did they do?
I'm mad at them.
How's it their fault?
It's not necessarily their fault. But I got to have somebody
It's not at all their fault.
I got to have somebody to take this out on. I can't wait to read some of the MLB columnists about this situation.
I don't know that they're going to be up in arms.
I don't know either. I gotta see.
Why don't we just call up Jeff Passan right now?
Well, I can't get Jeff on the show that quickly.
I know, but it'd be nice.
Well, I could get Ryan Fagan. He's our baseball insider, by the way.
Thought I was.
No, you don't know anything about it. All you do is cheer for your team. You don't have the greater good in mind when it comes to the great game of baseball. You're so...
Why wouldn't I want to root for my own team?
Well, you're so bogged down in that you don't consider the health of the game.
The game is just more healthy.
I don't know if I've ever mentioned the philosophy class I took.
Yeah, the greater good. But tell me,
have I mentioned that?
Tell me one team who's worse off today.
Well, everybody that didn't get these guys.
They're not worse off. They're the same.
That are above Cincinnati, and they're worse off in that way.
Two teams got better.
Here's what my philosophy class instructor would have said. You don't always look at the tangible things about who's worse off. Sometimes you have to think a little deeper about that. I can almost hear him saying the word.
Okay, whose roster...
and those words resonated with
today.
Me. And I'm using a lot of what I was taught
outside of the
class.
Angels.
I'm using a lot of what I was taught in that class right now on this show.
You didn't answer my question.
Because I'm so caught up right now in hearkening back to that class.
Harken back.
No, I'm hearkening back.
You hark back.
No, I'm hearkening back.
You hark back.
Hearkening.
Mm-mm.
I'm hearkening back. I don't hark back.
You should.
No, that you don't hark back to anything.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm almost 100% sure my philosophy teacher mentioned that. So anyway, not a good day for MLB, in my opinion. Good day for the Guardians, and that's all Jeff's thinking about.
Thank you. Not a bad day for anybody.
Again, it's a bad day for the game as a whole.
I don't see how that's even possible.
I can't wait to
because the Reds and the
Guardians and the boys.
They're not going to say
in on this.
They're not going to say what you think they're going to say.
I can't wait to read it. They're busy working on it right now. It'll be online.
I can't wait.
Hopefully before the end of the show.
I can't wait until tomorrow's show or whenever this comes up, and you have to eat a little crow.
Well, again, the Guardians got better today.
The game is not in any worse shape than it was.
A lot of teams didn't have an opportunity to get better, and that bothers me. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll break down KU, the Jayhawks. We'll talk with Jon Kirby from Jayhawk Slant. KU, of course, opening tomorrow night up at Memorial Stadium. They take on Missouri State. We'll get Jon Kirby's thoughts after this.
This is the Bob and Jeff Show on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Standing on the corner, suitcase in my hand.
All right, I did not get the music today, Max, so you might send that to me. I don't know who this is, but I know the song has Sweet in the title. And that's the best.
It must.
All right, we are joined by Jon Kirby from Jayhawk Slant. We're going to talk about the KU Jayhawks. John, welcome.
Bob, how you doing?
Well, we're doing well. It's no secret that this is a tremendous offensive team with a lot of firepower, almost everybody back in the too-deep depth chart for Kansas offensively, but they got to get better defensively. Will that happen in 2023?
You know, I tend to say yes, and I'll tell you why. I mean, you've got what you hope, and I've heard some of the, like Phil Steele, the analysts, say this, is when you bring back so many guys, you just hope there's some improvement based off of the fact that they've got that much experience, okay? I mean, in the secondary, I mean, you've got like 3,000 snaps coming back in the secondary. You've got all your starters coming back at linebacker, and then a transfer who pushed them, you know, for a starting job. The one area that's the question mark going in, and it's the one area that I say is there's potential, because I think they're going to be more athletic up front outside of maybe at that rush-in spot. But I do think they have a chance to improve defensively up front, especially more athletically and getting after the quarterback on the interior and on the strong side with Jeremy Robinson.
So if that happens and the defense takes a step or two forward, what's to say Kansas couldn't be not only one of the surprises in the Big 12, but also one of the surprises in the country? Is that on the table, in your opinion?
Well, you know, Bob, I think you just got to get through it and see what this thing looks like these first few weeks. I mean, you know, you got Illinois coming in week 2. That's going to be a tough game. I mean, Illinois brings back their entire front seven. They bring back all their starters on the O-line, so they're going to be a big physical Big Ten team. Sometimes it's a type of team that KU doesn't match up with very well. So I think we've got to see what it looks like. The parts are there and the pieces are there. And, you know, last year was magical. I mean, you know, they got off to that start. You had ESPN Game Day there. But, you know, they had some nice things that happened along the way to get there. So I just think we've got to wait and see what it looks like early on here.
Does the high ceiling of KU indicate a high floor as well? Or is there so much, like you said, that we still have to see, we still have to find out? Jalen Daniels' health might be one of the X factors that the range of outcomes could be a little bit wider than that.
Well, you know, when you look at Jalen Daniels, you know, they're saying that he's really returned full-time to practice this week, okay? And I know we were there during fall camp, and he was limited through that. Bob, when you look back and you see what they did last year offensively and when they had success, it was really in those first 4 or 5 weeks when he was playing, okay? And it was because they opened up a playbook that was about as diverse as you can be. I mean, they were running option. They were running quarterback run game. They had the tight ends involved. They had wide receivers involved. They had Highshaw and Neal, and those guys were running. And I'm telling you, Andy Kotelnicki is an incredibly creative offensive coordinator where they get a lot of things going with motion, and they do a lot of window dressing, and they keep defenses on their heels. So the question is going to be, is that full complement of the playbook open? I asked Kotelnicki that this week, and he said absolutely. He said it is all available game one. So based on what he's saying is Jalen Daniels should be healthy, what he's saying, to do what they did last year when they go out to West Virginia against a pretty good defense and run all over them, go down to Houston and run all over them and, you know, put up some nice points and nice drives against Duke, who has an defensive-minded coach there. And Duke ended up being a good team last year. So I think KU's at their best when that offense is moving around. Then look at last year what happened. Jalen went out. Bean came in. The offense still moved the football. And then when Daniels came back, they did not open up that playbook like they did earlier in the season. I think they were trying to help him out, trying to preserve him and keep him safe a little bit, and they weren't quite as daring. But when they got everything going, I think they're pretty good.
Talking Kansas football, Jon Kirby from Jayhawk Slant. So so Kansas had this remarkable opening to go 5-0 last year. Obviously, the injury to Daniels happened, but they were still competitive in a lot of their losses. I don't know. For me, and I want to see if you agree, this is one of those teams that I think, I don't want to put too much on them, but I think if everything clicks, I think they're an 8-9 win team. Am I crazy, John?
I don't think you're crazy, but like you said, I think things have got to click, okay? I mean, you've got Illinois coming in week 2. You've got just a weird kind of game in week 3 at Nevada. You're going on the road. You play I think it's a 9:30 Central Time. So, I mean, those guys, their bodies are going to be off. It's a tough travel there. There's nothing that flies right into Reno there. I'm sure they can probably land the plane there. And then it comes back from that, and then you got BYU, Texas, Central Florida, Oklahoma State. So, I mean, there's games in there. Can they beat BYU at home? Absolutely. Can they beat Central Florida at home? Absolutely. Can they beat Oklahoma State on the road? I think that's a possibility. But, again, are these games that you want to go in your pocket and pull out $100 bill right now and say, yes, I'm betting on it right now? No, I don't know that you are, but you do say there's a chance.
Yeah, how hard is it? And that's not the right word, but it must be somewhat difficult for you personally not to kind of get caught up in everything that's going on around KU. I just opened up the Kansas City Star. Their first prediction is Jalen Daniels as a Heisman finalist, and not that can't happen, but I mean it must be a little bit different to analyze fairly in a world of hot takes. Is that fair?
Yeah, for me, it's not. I've covered the program since '99. So I started when Terry Allen was there. Then I went to Mangino. Then I went to Gill, and it just goes on down the road. So, I've seen a lot of bad. I've seen some good. So I want to say I'm a little bit of a seasoned veteran. I've kind of seen all peaks and valleys of KU football. So I stay pretty even keel on it and try to stay pretty real and keep, it's like I was telling everybody with Missouri State coming in. We do this prediction thread, and I mean, there's guys, predictions 56-7, 52-10, 49-10, and I'm like, Missouri State's not a bad team. I mean, they went on the road 2 years ago, had Oklahoma State in trouble in the fourth quarter. They lost by 7. Last year, they went down to Fayetteville. They were leading Arkansas in the fourth quarter in Fayetteville. So, I mean, I'm just saying, you've got to kind of keep it grounded here. I know the Jayhawks got to the bowl game last year, and Leipold is a tremendous coach. They've got organization. There's structure in the program. He's got a good staff. There's a system. Things are going in the right direction. But sometimes you got to pull back to a little bit and just look at it real and say, hey, there's still some pretty tough games on this schedule.
Jon Kirby, our guest from Jayhawk Slant, and you're exactly right. And, of course, I've been around a while myself, so I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to KU too. I've also seen it on the K-State side, and I guess the comparison I would make is when Bill Snyder came to K-State, there was immediate improvement. You could see it with your eyes, and there was progress made. But there were also some plateaus in those early years, some times when maybe they started climbing the mountain a little bit too quickly for their feet and lost their grasp. So in that way, this rebuild at Kansas is probably in a similar spot. But I do think this rebuild is definitely underway, and at some point KU will get to a point where they're a contending team in the Big 12. What do you think of that assessment?
Yeah, I think that's very fair. And when you look at the Big 12, okay, you lose Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, those are two of your upper echelon teams. And you're going to bring in a whole new slew of 4 teams coming forward. And I think those teams, when you look at who's joined and when you look at who's going to join, I think those are teams year in, year out Kansas can compete with. Okay, I mean, I was telling somebody the other day that, you lose Texas and Oklahoma and all of a sudden replace them with a Colorado and an Arizona. That's not a bad trade-off if that's what your schedule is going to look like. So I think Lance has this thing going to where they've got a great strength and conditioning program. You've got the stadium improvements coming, new locker room, new weight room. Everything is trending up. But like you said, Now I'll tell you what. Once Snyder got it going there, I don't remember. I don't remember a whole lot of bad years until maybe there in the 2000s, where I guess five wins. I can't remember what they did, but 5 wins was probably considered bad for that program the way he had it going. But Kansas is moving. I don't know if they're going to. Kansas State had some years where they were 10 and 11 wins there. So it'll just be interesting to watch. But it's going to go slow. It's going to go slow, and they're doing it right.
And for those ready to put me in a rubber room, I'm not in any way saying that KU will be on that level of what K-State did. I'm just saying that I think much, much better days are coming for the Jayhawks. Jeff.
Yeah, just curious what you think Lance Leipold has learned about building a defense that can be effective in the Big 12. I mean, it's just extremely hard in college football to build a successful defense because offenses are so prevalent. So what do you think he's learned, first of all, and how do you think he's going about it? What do you think is the best way? Is it through the transfer portal or something else?
Well, they've gone to the portal, and they've got some guys that have helped. I mean, they've gone to the portal to get guys up front. They've gone to the portal for some linebackers. I mean, gosh, some of their best linebackers are going to be from the portal. So, and they've done well in recruiting. The recruiting class right now, where they're at, it's the best that it's been from a high school level. It's the best that it's been in some time. So he knows what needs to be done. He's an incredibly smart, intellectual football coach. It's just, when you're building with defense, I still think you've got to have a system in place. And I think the fact that they've got Jalen Daniels and Kotelnicki is a tremendous offensive coordinator, very creative. I think the fact that the offense kind of took off puts a magnifying glass on the defense, that it makes its struggles bigger, right? Because now you look back and say, God, if they could have just got those 2 stops there, they win another game. Or if they wouldn't have fallen behind 21-7 in that game, and then they played well after that, if they could have just got some stops here and there. So I think the defense is kind of under a microscope a little bit more. And Lance Leipold knows, listen, they have been very physical in their practices. They were very physical in the spring. Guys were banged up. And he told us going in the spring, this is going to be a physical spring football. We have got to learn what it means to play physical football. And, I mean, there were kids banged up left and right. There were guys banged up in fall camp. So I think he's sending the message, especially up front, they've got to be more physical. And I think a lot of that goes to the defensive side of the ball.
All right, really good stuff. You got me fired up for that Illinois game because you're right. That's a very interesting early season game between a couple of teams in their respective conferences that are kind of in similar places. So that one coming up week 2, the Jayhawks open tomorrow night at home against Missouri State. We've been talking KU football with Jon Kirby from Jayhawk Slant. John, thank you very much.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah, that's am I a little too bullish on KU?
Probably, but that's okay.
Why do you think probably?
I just don't.
Put your money where your mouth is.
What money?
Well, you said I'm being too bullish. Tell me why.
Well, it's just a little too much. Let's wait and see what happens.
I'm not saying they're going to be world beaters.
You got them at 9 wins. I don't know if that's.
Let me tell you where I said is it possible? I didn't say it's 9 wins. They beat Missouri State. Illinois to me is a big wild card. I think Illinois KU are that's going to be one of the games of the week in all of college football in week 2.
Maybe.
They'll win at Nevada. I don't care if they start that game at 3 a.m. Right?
Don't know.
Home against BYU. They'll win that game. That's potentially 4-0.
Or they might be 2-2.
That's potentially 4-0 at Texas. That's a loss. 4-1. Home against Central Florida. Wild card game. I'll give it to them. 5-1. At Oklahoma State. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know how good KU is going to be. Their offense certainly looks
6-1.
Like it could be off the charts.
At home.
Don't know.
7-1, right? Maybe.
Or maybe 4-4.
At Iowa State.
Don't know.
Well, what's this don't know?
I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and predict like I.
You don't know anytime we go through schedules.
I don't know. I don't know enough about.
Why are you on this show if you don't know?
I just
This
am.
isn't the don't know show.
Oh, it's
This
not
is the
the
Bob knows.
It's not the win.
This is the Bob knows and Jeff
for a
tag
team that's
along.
had one winning season in the last 3,000 years.
I don't know why you're being resistant. I've got them at 8-4.
Oh, so they're going to go 1-3 down the stretch.
Yeah, because they got Oklahoma, they got Texas Tech, they got K-State. I think they lose all those games. So I got them at 8-4. That's what I'm sticking with. I don't know either.
If they're not good enough to win any of those 3 games, they're not good enough to start 7-1 either.
But what I'm doing is not saying I don't know, because you know what saying I don't know will get you on a radio show? A bunch of people tuning out.
A lot of people not thinking you're just full of it.
Millie, I'm listening to the show. This one clown doesn't know anything. So
I'm not going to claim to know.
Over here
How would I claim to know what KU's defense is going to look like?
I'm going to turn it over here.
They're probably going to be really bad on defense.
I'm going to turn it over here where these guys know something.
Okay, they're probably going to be really bad defensively.
The one thing I look for when
you just want to pick wins and look at the schedule and win. Well, I got them at this. But when we start talking about, hey, on the field, it might not look like that. Their defense is going to be awful. Then we go, well, Millie, what do you think this guy says?
One thing I look for is people that know.
And you clearly don't.
We are joined by Dusty Trail, the head football coach at Bishop Carroll. They open their season tomorrow with probably the game of the week in the state of Kansas at Northwest to take on the Grizzlies. Hello, Dusty.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Oh, it's another year and another Dusty Trail at Bishop Carroll year. How are you doing? That's the question.
I'm doing good. I'm out enjoying a little sunshine right now.
Well, there's a lot of sunshine to be enjoyed. So you opened with Northwest last year, and it was a shootout. You won it 53-41. These are 2 high-powered offenses. Are you expecting something similar to that this year?
Yeah, a lot of that has to do with the tempo that Northwest runs. They play very fast. So when we play them, there's always a lot of, we get a lot of plays. Their offense runs probably close to 80, 90 plays in a game. We don't exactly play slow either. So when you get that many offensive snaps, you're giving yourselves more opportunities to make some fireworks and put some points on the scoreboard.
So you've opened with Northwest every year since 2014, except for the COVID year, which ironically Northwest was your final game in that season. So
Right.
Do you think practice leading up to a first game against Northwest is different than maybe it would be if you're playing somebody else, somebody different, somebody not quite as talented? Obviously the preparation is different, but is there anything else that's just different about Northwest week or Northwest month?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's a game our kids and their kids probably, but it's a game that our kids definitely look forward to. They like the competition. They know a lot of the guys on Northwest football team and same way with Northwest and us. So, I think there's definitely some added intensity, as we start preparing for Northwest and it's something that's talked about, I'm sure, on both teams all summer long as well, that, hey, we have to, we're playing a tough team. We got to get ready for them. So definitely extra motivation there.
Dusty Trail, our guest. We're talking Bishop Carroll football with our head coach. So you've got a really top-notch quarterback in Jackson King who got pretty good experience last year. Tell us a little bit about him. I know he's headed to Air Force and thought to be one of the best high school quarterbacks in the state of Kansas. What about him? What does he do well?
Well, Jackson's, first of all, number one, he's a very good athlete. He's got good size. Jackson's 6'3", 6'4", and he runs well. So, that in and of itself makes him tough to defend. And we use him a lot to run the football. But where I've seen the most improvement in Jackson is his decision making in throwing the football and being able to create when we're throwing the ball and when the pocket collapses. It just makes us overall as a team very tough to defend when you got a quarterback that's as athletic as he is, that can extend plays, get himself out of trouble. And you combine that with better decision making, you got yourself a pretty good quarterback there.
Is this the most star power out of, again, I hesitate to use these superlatives, but, you got the running back at Capon, you have Jackson King and some others. East
Right.
has some real offensive stars. Obviously, Northwest has that. Is this about as good offensively that the top of the City League has been in a while in your memory?
Oh, definitely. There's a lot of guys that can make plays on their own. And, and a lot of these guys are getting that kind of respect through recruiting. You can see a lot of those guys are getting Division I offers. And that just goes to the quality that we're seeing here around the Wichita area. And, so it just so happens that those kids are playing offense. We've always had very good athletes around the city of Wichita. And, it's nice to see those guys getting a little more, getting better looks from college coaches. And it helps other guys get recruited, too, when you have that kind of talent around. But, since I've been a head coach, I don't know that we've seen as much offensive talent throughout the league or throughout the city of Wichita than, since I've become a head coach. Now, back when I was offensive coordinator in Allen's era, there might be some years there where we had some pretty talented guys. Cameron Wembley kind of comes to mind back in that area. There were some pretty good guys back then, too.
Yeah, he wasn't bad. Are you practicing at this moment, Dusty?
No, I have a class, and we're out on the football field playing ultimate frisbee. So that's probably what you hear going on.
There you go. Dusty Trail, our guest from Bishop Carroll. So you were in a bunch of close games last year. You won your share, and you lost. You lost 3 of them as well. So what's it like being in a close game and trying to figure out how to pull that close game out?
Yeah, it's I like our kids being in close games because it's a challenge mentally to keep yourself mentally in the game. And, you have to, in close games, you got to do the little things right to try and pull out those victories. And, the more little things you do correctly, the better it's going to end up for you. So, and that's what we preach a lot is paying attention to those little things, being disciplined, not hurting yourself. And I think that's an indication that, we're moving in the right direction as far as a program and a team and what we want to try and accomplish throughout the year. It does put stress on these guys and on the coaches as well to be in close games like that. But, that's why you get out and compete. You want that kind of competition. So, it's in the end, it ends up good for everybody, I think.
Can you tell us more about some of your players? We know you've got returners, offense, defense, special teams that had really good years last year, as Carroll always does and will. Can you name some of those names?
I'm sorry, I got a little distracted there. What was your question again?
We're wanting you to name some of your players that you expect big things from, and remember, every parent is listening.
Yeah. Well, of course, we already talked about one, Jackson King, but he's got a stable of receivers to get the ball to. Parker Flack and Luke Holthusen are two of our top receivers that we're expecting big things out of. Van Hanberg's another receiver that we're expecting big things out of. Of course, our other Division I recruit on the offensive side of the ball, Hank Purvis. We're obviously expecting big things out of him, not only in his play, but also in his leadership. He's the only one back on our offensive line from last year. So we're trying to work in 4 new guys that don't have his experience. So he's got to do a great job of leading those guys for us. And, we got Thomas Gorgeous back at running back from last year. He did a great job for us last year, so we're expecting the same out of him this year. On the defensive side of the ball, we got our leading tackler back in Carter Morris playing linebacker for us. And so we're expecting him to make a lot of plays for us. Sam Hampton on the defensive line is back for us as well. And then in the secondary, we got another linebacker, Cash Ungles. He got some playing time last year, but really came into his own toward the end of last year. We played him at some D-line last year and some linebacker. We moved him full-time to linebacker this year. We're expecting a lot of big plays out of him as well. And in the secondary, we've got some guys that got some part-time playing time last year. Hayden Woolley, he's going to play a safety for us, and we're expecting him to do a great job of leading that crew back there.
All right, I think you got everybody, Dusty. I think you're going to be okay with your parents.
I tried to name as many as I could.
We do appreciate you and your time, and best of luck. Big one tomorrow night against Northwest. At Northwest, we'll follow you throughout, Dusty. Thank you.
You bet. It's going to be fun. Thank you, guys. I appreciate
Yes, sir.
it.
Thanks.
All right, Dusty Trail from Bishop Carroll. We will be back, hour number 2. Our first picks coming up at about 3:25. We'll be joined by Jason Duda and Max Power to get those first 8 picks out of the way. Back in a minute, the Bob and Jeff Show on KFH.